Hi everyone, I'm Justin Ashbrook, and welcome to my YouTube channel. And if you haven't been to music school, you probably don't get the joke in the intro music. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what I would do if I had creative control over Doctor Who. These are the top 5 stories that I would write for the show. So first I'll talk about that, and then after I'll talk about generally what I'm going to do with my channel. I will be talking spoilers for Doctor Who. That includes like the new series, the classic series, and the TV movie, so be careful of that if you're not caught up with the show. Also, if you could give this video a like, that would be great. Okay, let's get started. Number 5, bring back the meddling monk. In my opinion, the meddling monk was underutilized and criminally underrated. I think the best villains are the ones that are as sympathetic as possible. Like Killmonger from Black Panther, Gravedigger from Black Lightning Season 3, and Mr. Freeze from Batman the Animated Series. The meddling monk totally fits into this category, as someone who is genuinely trying to help save history like the Doctor is, but is misguided about how he goes about it. If you don't know, the meddling monk first appeared in the 1965 story The Time Meddler, where he attempted to bring a cannon back in time in 1066 during the Battle of Stamford Bridge, so he could stop the Norwegian invasion, making it so the English won instead of the Norwegians. This is deemed to be bad by the Doctor because it would have ripple effects in history. The Doctor and his companions stop him from doing this and famously remove the dimensional control, the thing that makes the TARDIS bigger on the inside, making it so the TARDIS is the same size on both the outside and the inside.
What's he done? He's taken my dimensional control. He's ruined my time machine. I'm marooned.
He then went on to appear in the Daleks' Master Plan and several Big Finish audios, including many 8th Doctor Adventures episodes. As far as my story goes, I think it would be really cool to have a redemption arc for him. Since he's really sympathetic, I think this would work really well just like it did for Missy. The episode could start out with them going back to 1940 to discover that World War II doesn't exist, it's just not happening at all. Then the Doctor goes back to see her friend Winston Churchill about this. He doesn't know anything about a World War II and can't understand why the Doctor wants one to happen. Meanwhile, a staffer of Churchill's seems suspicious. They confront them, and it's revealed that they're working for the meddling monk, who is currently in Germany advising Hitler against invading Poland. This makes Churchill realize the hard truth that there should be a war, and they capture the staffer and take the TARDIS to Nazi Germany, where the staffer leads them to the meddling monk. Then the Doctor and the monk could have a philosophical confrontation about the morality of doing this. The Doctor could then take the monk into the future, maybe 20 or 30 years later, to see a much worse and brutal World War II happening, where maybe there's double the deaths. The Doctor could explain to him that trying to change these large-scale historical events that are integral to the Earth's history, while good-intentioned, make things worse and cause more death in the end. The monk then sees that his actions are wrong, and he returns to the 1940s, recommends to Hitler that he invade Poland, quits his job advising it after that, obviously, and calls off people working for him. Quick side note, this is probably understood, but just in case it isn't for some people, I'm not saying that it was a good idea for Hitler to invade Poland, but I'm saying in this fictional universe, when your options are he can invade Poland then and there, or there's another World War II later with double the deaths, the better option is for Hitler to have invaded Poland then and there. The Doctor offers him a test run to see if he can properly help to save history, like he did with Missy, but he declines and instead chooses to live out his life as a simple monk, on the condition that the Doctor checks on him once in a while. She agrees and they go back to the TARDIS, confirm that World War II is happening according to history, albeit a little later than it originally did, and the credits roll. Coming in at number 4, we have an episode with the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann. In my opinion, the 8th Doctor was underutilized, and despite many opportunities the BBC have had to bring him back, they only gave him one mini 7-minute episode. If you don't know, the 8th Doctor, portrayed by Paul McGann, only appeared on screen in the 1996 Doctor Who TV movie, produced by Fox, as well as the mini episode I mentioned, which is called The Night of the Doctor. Though it's not the best Doctor Who story, the 1996 TV movie is definitely worth checking out for Paul McGann's performance. Paul McGann's Doctor also appears in a plethora of Big Finish audio stories, which are great. As much as I love Christopher Eccleston's Doctor, I would have much preferred Paul McGann to appear as the Doctor in Series 1. If they didn't do that, I would have at least preferred they make Paul McGann the War Doctor, even though I do love John Hurt. Or if neither of those, at least have him appear alongside David Tennant and Matt Smith in Day of the Doctor. I might do a separate video about how I would have treated older doctors in the Day of the Doctor, so let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. For the purposes of this video, I'm treating Big Finish as canon, at least the 8th Doctor stuff, because the Night of the Doctor effectively canonizes it.
Charlie, Carey's Lucy, Tamsin, Molly. Friends, companions I've known, I salute you. And Cass, I apologize. Physician, heal thyself.
As for fitting the 8th Doctor into a current Doctor Who episode, the episode could start out with them both landing on an alien planet. It's been long enough since the 2 Doctors and even Dave the Doctor that the explanation of sometimes you just run into yourself would work.
But how can 2 of you be together at the same point in space and time?
When you travel around as much as I do, it's almost inevitable that you'll run into yourself at some point. Come on.
Maybe this would be a good opportunity to bring a Big Finish companion to live action like Sheridan Smith as Lucy Miller. As far as the threat that has enough stakes for a multi-doctoral story, I think the villains could be 2 versions of the Master, specifically Eric Roberts and Sacha Dhawan. This is because at least with the 8th Doctor on screen, Eric Roberts' Master is his most iconic villain, and Sacha Dhawan's version of the Master seems to be shaping up as one of Jodie's biggest villains. That's pretty much it for this idea. The others will have much more detailed plots. Another video I might make is a list of the top 5 ways the 8th Doctor could return to live action, so let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that as well. Coming in at number 3, we have a character study on Sacha Dhawan's Master. With Joker becoming the first R-rated movie to earn $1 billion, sympathetic villains are more popular than ever. I can't remember who, but another YouTuber said that the thing that makes Dhawan's Master so good is the fact that he's not only chaotic and off the rails, just like John Simm's Master was, it's also that he feels like he needs to act that way in order to keep himself from falling apart. I think that's a really fascinating characterization of him. I also think that Dhawan's performance is really solid, and it deserves an entire episode to explore. I'm not saying we have to know everything about the Master's backstory, but we should at least explore that aspect of it. Having an episode focused almost entirely around the Master would not only explain why this version of him acts the way he acts, it would give more context to the Timeless Children. The plot of the episode could be like a prequel to the Timeless Children, where the Master fights the Time Lords while giving you voiceover dialogue of his inner thoughts. It could be the perfect blend of adrenaline-rushing action sequences and serious character development. While I do think the concept of having a timeless child was good in theory, I think it should have been someone other than the Doctor. In my opinion, the Doctor is much more fascinating when he's just a random Time Lord, unimportant to their history.
Do you know what I am? I am an idiot with a box and a screwdriver. Just passing through, helping out, learning. I don't need an army. I never have, because I've got them. Always.
Council of Geeks has a really good video going into more detail about that, so I'll link that in the description. This episode could undo the Doctor being the timeless child by showing the Master altering the Matrix in some way to make it appear that the Doctor was the timeless child, instead of whoever else it really is. It doesn't really matter too much, as long as it's not the Doctor. The episode could end with the final battle between the Master and Rassilon. The Master could then defeat him, alter the Matrix, and then go through the portal, and the ending scene of Ascension of the Cybermen would play.
How is Gallifrey here?
Wow! Oh! It's a good entrance, right? Be afraid, Doctor. Because everything is about to change. Forever.
Coming in at number 2, we have what if the Doctor found a Gallifreyan survivor? During Series 12, it is established that Gallifrey is destroyed, but some Time Lords could have survived and be hiding out on another planet like the Jedi at the end of Revenge of the Sith. It would be interesting for the Doctor to find evidence when visiting Gallifrey that a Time Lord escaped. This could be an established Time Lord, but I think there would be far more potential to have an original Time Lord. It would be a cool way to explore how more average or working class Time Lords think of the Doctor. Generally, Time Lords observe history but don't interfere with pre-established events. And I know things like the Celestial Intelligence Agency exist, but those were secret organizations and the average Time Lord didn't know about them. The Time Lord the Doctor finds could agree with the non-interference policy of the Time Lords and could challenge the Doctor's narrative of constantly interfering and saving people, arguing that the interfering could make things worse. This is a huge part of the premise of the show, and it would be really interesting to see a character challenge it. As far as the story, it could be a two-part story. In the first part, the Doctor could do detective work with some help from the companions to find the Time Lord. The cliffhanger at the end of the first episode would be the reveal of the Time Lord living on Earth, living amongst humans with a human family. In the second part, the Time Lord could be critical of the Doctor, saying her approach of changing history is flawed, like I mentioned, because it has the potential to make things worse. Then an alien threat could come, not the strongest threat, but one that is formidable. This puts the Time Lord's family at risk, and that makes them change their mind about non-interfering because they want to save their family. They defeat the alien threat, and the Time Lord thanks the Doctor for helping them save their family. The Time Lord says they feel the need to help the universe, and says goodbye to their family and leaves in their TARDIS. A second later, the TARDIS comes back because they miss their family. The Time Lord asks if they can still help save people on Earth with their family. The Doctor says she knows a way they can. She leaves and comes back a second later with Captain Jack Harkness. Captain Jack shakes their hand and says, "Hi, I'm Captain Jack Harkness. Welcome to Torchwood." A few things before we get into number one. Because of all the craziness happening over the past few weeks, I've included a link in the description for ways you can help people. And now for a quick honorable mention, I think it would be really cool to have the multiverse back in some form. I'm not sure exactly what that story would look like, but I know the Arrowverse shows use it really well, and I think Doctor Who could too. And number one, since we're all in quarantine right now as I'm recording this, I think it would be a really cool idea to do a quarantine episode where they're stuck in the TARDIS. And essentially, the goal of the episode is character development and getting you to care about the characters more. To me, Doctor Who has always been more of a plot-driven story than a character-based one. That doesn't mean I don't think the show doesn't have some really interesting and developed characters, but what it does mean is that I think the emphasis is usually on stories. This isn't inherently bad. In fact, what got me interested in it in the first place, when I first watched Series 1, were the interesting plots. But when a long-running show like Doctor Who has been like this for almost 60 years, it can feel repetitive. A really good way to keep it fresh is to do character-driven episodes once in a while. Some of the only well-executed examples I can think of this are The Edge of Destruction and Vincent and the Doctor.
How dare you! Do you realize, you stupid old man, that you'd have died in the Cave of Skulls if Ian hadn't made fire for you? And what about what we went through against the Daleks? Not just for us, but for you and Susan, too. And all because you tricked us into going down to the city.
But
Accuse us! You ought to go down on your hands and knees and thank us. But gratitude's the last thing you'll ever have, or any sort of common sense either.
To my mind, that strange, wild man who roamed the fields of Provence was not only the world's greatest artist, but also one of the greatest men who ever lived.
Vincent, sorry.
I'm sorry, is it too much?
No. They are tears of joy.
And I'm sure there are more, but they are few and far between. From a production standpoint, the benefit of an episode like this, often called a bottle episode, is that you can save money from it without having to spend money on CGI and VFX. As far as the story goes for this episode, it would be really simple because the goal of the episode is to get you to care about the characters more. The TARDIS could break down either in the middle of space or on an empty planet. The Doctor and the companions would have to fix the TARDIS. While this is happening, the fact that they are alone would push them to talk about their problems and resolve their internal conflicts. I can see some people saying they would be bored by this, so there are a few things the episode could do to keep you invested. Number one, you can build tension around the internal conflict between the characters. While this isn't utilized very often on Doctor Who, great shows like The Good Place, The Orville, and Doom Patrol rely more heavily on internal conflict between the characters rather than external conflict from an outside threat like a villain. While it might be surprising or jarring for some fans, If well executed, there's nothing stopping Doctor Who from doing this just as well as those shows. The second would be to create stakes around fixing the TARDIS. There could be some kind of consequence if the TARDIS isn't fixed within a certain amount of time, like the amount of oxygen in the TARDIS depleting or something else like that. This creates stakes, but can be established only in a few lines, leaving the majority of the episode for character development. The third thing would be to have a post-credits scene teasing a villain or storyline for the next episode, so viewers will be more excited for the next episode. While this doesn't have to, and probably shouldn't be the norm for Doctor Who, as it is a sci-fi show, it would be a great thing for it to do once in a while. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching, and if you could subscribe, that would be really good. And make sure you turn on the bell so you get notified every time I post a video. So now I'll talk generally about what I'm planning to do with this YouTube channel. So, a little over a year ago, I think it was now, I started a blog where I would do reviews of movies and I would do stuff like fan theory. And the reason why I did that was because at the time I wanted to start a YouTube channel, but I didn't feel confident enough to put myself out there like this. So I thought that writing would be a way that I could do that without putting myself out there like this. But then a few months ago, I moderated some panels, a Doctor Who panel, a mental health panel, and one about how to start reading comics. So I thought a YouTube channel can't be much harder, and so I thought I would give it a try. Many years ago on this channel, I also did very cringy videos surrounding the YouTube series Epic Battles of History, so obviously I'm done with that now. But if for some reason you want to see those, they're unlisted, and I have links to the playlists in the comments. So I'll be doing Doctor Who videos like this, Marvel and DC. I also have a webcomic coming out soon with my girlfriend, so we'll be doing breakdowns of those on here. Also, I am a musician, so occasionally I will release original music or covers, so I'll post that on this channel here as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope I see you next time.